Welcome back to Unsolicited Advice, brought to you by Toxic Bubblegum. I always forget to say that. I'm Bubblegum.
I'm Toxic.
And we're still talking about world building.
Yes. Now we're going to share our experience with world building and give you pointers and tips on how you can do that.
Fun stuff. So, this might be a shorter episode, depending on how long we go. But we talk a lot.
Yeah. Also, I'm thinking about doing a spin-off series. Let me know what you guys think about me doing a spin-off series where I just talk about Game of Thrones so I don't have to do it on the podcast
Oh my
anymore.
god. That's like your own private podcast that you do for yourself.
I said it as a joke, but I'm seriously thinking about just like live streaming how our... Like, before I come over to record, just doing a live stream that's just me talking about Game of Thrones so I can get it all out of my system before we podcast.
Oops. There's so much to talk about, though.
I know.
Oops. So yeah, we're going to start with part one is our experience with world building, and we're both, creative people, so we've done a lot of it.
Yeah.
I have a list of worlds, actually, that I keep on hand so I can remember where I can put characters, because I have too many.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oops. So yeah, where should we start with?
Oh, I figured you'd want to start with, Alan was, really excited to do our world building.
I am. I'm the reason we're doing a world building episode.
I was also excited about it, but only in the context of I wanted to talk about Game of Thrones.
That's true. That's all you're ever excited about, is talking about Game of Thrones. That's why we need to have a separate live stream for that.
I know.
You fiend.
I'm seriously thinking it might not be a joke anymore.
Oh no! Well, that's gonna be on you. I'm leaving that in your department.
I'll do that.
So, yeah, I guess experience-wise, I was literally just world building for this today. I'm about to run a Norse mythology tabletop campaign for the Adventures crew. And so that's gonna be interesting, because it's a kind of adaptation, because I'm taking Norse gods and pushing them into the setting I have, which is a modern day one, which is obviously very different than the world they were in when they were worshipped. But it's one of those things where it's I started with the concept of I wanted to do Norse mythology. So the first thing I did was determine the time period I wanted it to be in. I decided I wanted to do it modern day, because I was we've done a couple that aren't in modern day, and I'm I'm done with that. Yeah. You guys are gonna have transportation and shit, because I don't want to deal with that. I also thought it would just be fun to push it into modern day, because there's, I feel a lot more to work with. Also, the relationships with having actual deities influencing the world is a big thing. Thor is the god of thunder and lightning, which has evolved into him being a big influence on the world of technology.
Right.
So the equivalent in that world of Apple is called Mjolnir Industries, which is based off inspiration given by Thor to develop new technology and stuff like that.
Right.
So I just thought it would be really interesting to try to take a new spin on things.
Yeah, I think it's we haven't really done much with that campaign yet, but it looks like it's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
To see that combination of...
And it's I also wanted to push it so not only is it modern day, but I want each of the realms to have its own character to it. Modern day is going to be Midgard, where you guys start off, but Alfheim is going to be completely different, and Svartalfheim is going to be completely different, and I'm really excited for you guys to get to Asgard when you do get there, because that's going to be a lot of fun. But because I wanted, since the gods are here to give inspiration to people, I wanted them to be in a more advanced state, but handing down those gifts.
Yeah. That's good.
But they're still the first to get it, and the first to really develop it into a safe state. So, like, yeah, I just thought it'd be fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just started on that with, like, I was like, what would be cool? This would be cool. What are other cool things? And then I sort of placed my logic around what I thought would be cool to include.
That makes sense.
It's fun.
I mean, it's a valid way of doing stuff, like proposing interesting scenarios and then shaping the world to make those plausible.
Right. It's like one of those things where it's like, you can start with the world building, like, obviously, but generally, like, your story or your characters are gonna come first or being developed simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Which is one of the things I do. I develop my things simultaneously because I can't stop thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if I have something where I'm like, I want this to be a character's backstory, I'm like, okay, well, how does that work into, like, the history of everything? And it's like, that helps to develop the world.
Yeah.
Is developing these things simultaneously and making excuses so I can do cool things.
Yeah. It's a good, like, world building bounces off of other elements so well in development.
It's like, one of those things where it's also, like, world building with other people can be a lot of fun, like, on collaborative projects, because it's like, you obviously have your ideas, but they could have a radically different idea, and it can either be, like, better, or it can, like, you guys can make a hybrid of it, and it's like, that just creates so much more potential for all the different things.
Because that's something that's really interesting, is that if you look at our world, it's not shaped by one person. So it's like, you know, there's something to be said for doing a narrative by yourself where you're like, this is the story that I want to tell, this is how the world is, I have, like, the ultimate power over this. But working with another person is a really good way to add layers to a story because, you know, you're saying stuff and they have different ideas, and that's how life works.
Right.
So it's like, finding those compromises and seeing where the world ends up is, in a way, the more authentic world building experience, because you never have total control over everything.
Right. I think that's also one of the really interesting things that can happen with, like, tabletop campaigns.
Oh, yeah.
Is because you, as the DM, do not have control over the other players.
Right.
And they will so often, as we have so often done to our DMs, fuck things up.
I've never done that in my life.
But, like, so the DM will be forced to, like, consider questions that they never, like, thought about.
Yeah.
And possibly respond on the fly. But then they can go back to the things that you've brought into it and, like build up lore from, like, the things you've asked and the things your characters have done.
Yeah.
And, like, obviously, like, if your people are having an effect on the world, the world's gonna change around them.
Yeah.
And, like, that could come back in very positive or very negative ways, or it may not come back around at all.
Yeah.
It could just... shit just happens. That's also how life goes. So...
yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I prefer to work in collaborations, I think. Like, I have a lot of fun ideas, but I work better with other people. Like, especially if I have someone to bounce stuff off of.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's fun.
Sense.
Yeah, I have, like, 5 different worlds, I want to say, that I consistently am world building for. I think. That sounds about right. Who knows?
That makes sense.
There's probably more. I lost track.
It's around there somewhere.
I don't care. As long as there's somewhere for people to go, I'm fine.
I like how you started with, I keep a list of worlds, and then you're like, there's maybe 5.
There's maybe 5? I don't know. Hold on, let me open my notes.
Nice.
Weebly. Top 10 gays. What's going on?
That's important.
Yeah. I don't have it anymore. I got rid of it. Oh no! Fuck!
You're lying.
God
to
damn
the
me!
listeners.
I lied to me. Is what I did. We need to move on.
Okay. That's fair.
Anyway, you get a lot of experience world building by just jumping in headfirst. Like,
Yeah.
There's no need to feel like you have to have a perfect formula for it. Because so much more often than not, you'll be describing your world to someone and they'll ask a question, then you have to be like, yes. That's a lot of what I do for my world building is I bother Ben. I'll just send him text messages and be like, can we talk about this thing? And then he'll ask me a bunch of questions. I'll be like, yes, this is what I needed.
Yeah, it can help. Even if it's not a full-on collaboration, it can always help to get an outside view.
Right. People are valuable.
Yeah,
as it turns out.
Yeah,
it's good.
That's a good message.
So I guess we can move on to part 2 then, which
nice.
is starting points.
Okay.
Unless do you have experience?
I also have experience.
What the fuck?
Not a lot. I'm gonna level with you guys, because I do, my whole thing that I like doing is contemporary horror, in a very isolated context, where there definitely is a world out there, but it's absolutely not relevant, because it is in, one specific location for the entire thing. But I've done a high fantasy project, and I do a lot of collaborative stuff that's very focused on world building. So, which is so good for me because what I'm good at is characters. So it's when I'm working with someone who has this world, it's so nice when I can just be like, this character is doing this right now.
This person is doing that thing.
Yeah.
Right.
It's good.
It's fun. It's healthy.
And then there's also, I've done a few things that I've, adapted from other things. Mm-hmm. Also, I've done some adaptations, which is always fun. The high fantasy project that I worked on was originally set in the Dungeons and Dragons world. Mm-hmm. And when I decided that it was one of those things where it's as I was trying to develop a backstory for my first D&D character, I was trying to write all of these things, but it was my first D&D character, so I didn't know the world really well. So I had all of these really cool ideas for her in my head, and then I found out that's not how the universe works in it. So after the campaign ended and I decided to pick up the project again, because I liked the character so much, I got to, at first it was it's gonna be so sad because I can never publish it because it's just D&D fan fiction, and then it's but I had other ideas about how things worked. If I focused on those, there's no reason why this has to be a Dungeons and Dragons thing. And it just kind of started from there. It's there are some elements that had to carry over for the character to make sense,
Right.
But it, very quickly became a world after that was different from the world that I wrote it for.
I think one of the things I'm gonna say is, never be ashamed to, adapt your fan characters into original characters. I can't list how many of my characters are adaptations from fan characters or versions of characters that I've really loved. But when you adapt them, you make them your own, and you'll obviously change things. And it's but so many of those things you still love can still be there.
Yeah,
you just have to, again, make it your own.
Right.
I started playing Treasure Cruise, and I literally made a fan character, and I'm I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't ready for this, but I'm, super excited about them, and so it's, as soon as, I have a world to put them in, they're gonna go there, and they're gonna be their own person, but I mean,
right.
Because that's just how I work. I need to have characters for everything, because why wouldn't I?
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, and even if you look at history, there's a lot of fan fiction.
Oh,
that's classical literature.
And there are a lot of things people are always looking down on fan fiction, and especially on AUs, and it's you can't do that because some really successful things that's all the Lion King,
the Lion King,
Wicked,
Jane Eyre.
Oh god,
is Pride and Prejudice fan fiction.
Yeah,
it's there's so and even adaptations are technically fan fiction.
And it's what we were talking about during the Silence of the Lambs thing, where it's it doesn't really matter what inspires something. If it's something that you care about and are having fun doing, and you know, if you are invested in a world that inspires you to do stuff, it's okay for that world to be your starting point.
Right.
For sure.
And it's also okay if, like, even if you think it's something, like, stupid or just, like, a silly thing, I'm just gonna come out and say it. I have a lot of characters that got adapted from Hitalia.
Yeah.
Because I love Hitalia so much.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, I obviously couldn't work in that world because that's its own thing.
Yeah.
But, so I adapted the ones that I loved the most from that world and had sort of already put my own spin on and brought them into my own worlds, and they're great. Like, they're totally different now. But, like, I still, like, that inspired me so much because it was, like, it was just fun. It was just, like, fun interactions between characters, and it's like, that's what I like.
Yeah.
So even if someone, like, says it's stupid, like, everyone's gonna have, like, their opinions on material, and it's like, but if you like it and it makes you happy, like, do it. Like, go for it.
One of the strongest, I'm not good at science fiction. This just sounds like me being mean to myself, I guess, but I'm not smart enough to write good science fiction.
Oh, no, okay.
That's like, when you look at the really fantastic science fiction writers, they're smart, and they're, like, frighteningly intelligent, and it's like, I'm not that.
Also,
I can't do that. Like, I can't do science fiction well, like, to the degree I'd like to be able to do it, and it's one of the reasons why I don't write it more, but I think one of the strongest sci-fi pieces I ever did, I actually, I never wrote the fan fiction, but the original idea came from, like, a Don't Starve fan fiction.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, that never happened, but I adapted it into something that I ended up being, like, really proud of.
It's like, you can do so much as long as you're, like, creative and inspired, and, like, if you're proud of it, like, even if it does contain, like, other characters, like, that are not yours, or it's, like, a self-insert piece. People always, give shit to, like, people who like Mary Sue's, but I mean, like, most of them are, like, young girls who are, like, exploring their creativity with that, and it's like, it's so important. It's like, it doesn't matter.
Self-inserts are so important, because it's one of those things where it's like, even if the story ends up, like, being terrible, or, you know, even if there are faults, there's not a lot different, because, like, storytelling is a lot of imagining what different people would do in different situations, and one of the best ways to form that habit is to ask yourself, what would I do in this situation?
Right.
Who would I be in this world? And it's, like, a really good gateway into storytelling.
Right. It's like, it's so important not to discourage, like, young writers or young artists, because, I mean, like, everyone starts somewhere, and, like, the most important thing you're ever going to put into your work is you.
Yeah.
That, I mean, like, not as a self-insert, like, once you get later on, but I mean, like, unless you're writing an autobiography, in which case it's all about you, in which case you're telling your story. But, like, even, like, when it's not, like, a physical character, you're the one that's creating everything. It's your universe, and it's your story that you're trying to tell, and if you're, like, your entire being is in that. Like, so, and if you don't put your heart and soul in your work, it shows.
Right.
Like, so yeah, don't, like, if you want to, like, and even if you get older, you want to write a self-insert character, go ahead, do it.
Yeah.
Why the hell not? It doesn't hurt anybody.
Yeah, and if nothing else, it's good practice, and it gets those emotions out. It's something that you can, like, return to later, and it's good for reference, if nothing else. It's a good exercise, if nothing else.
Right. It's like, I very recently adapted one of my self-insert characters, like, into her actual own character. And it was like, that's great. Because, like, she's great. I'm great. Everyone talk about how cool I am. Oh, okay, we're done. We have to cut that out of the podcast.
Get into the comments.
Oh, no.
How cool is Alan?
Oh, don't answer the question. But yeah, so take care of younger writers, and don't be ashamed to express yourself.
Yeah, and also, this, I guess, is more about, like, quality than world building, but it's important to encourage people. wrote a lot of self-inserts. I wrote a lot of fan fiction when I wrote like an embarrassing amount of Harry Potter fan fiction when I was a kid, because that was what I cared about at the time. And it's like, it's bad. It's really, really bad. But it taught me to write every single day.
Right.
Because I cared about this world where I got to meet Harry Potter, because that was the only thing that I ever wanted to do, was like just to meet Harry Potter. And it's like, I got to live in this world where like friends, like I'm best friends with Harry Potter, and it's great, and it was bad. It's like, it's not only like the Mary Sue thing, but it's like the plots mostly didn't make sense. They were just me talking to Harry Potter, and it was bad. And doing really well in class. I was like the best Hogwarts student. I was better than Hermione. She didn't need to be there. She was
It's fine.
done with that. Ron didn't need. No one needed to be there. It was just me and Harry Potter going to classes together, and I was like helping him with his homework. I don't know. That was my fantasy as a kid, was to do someone else, to do my fictional boyfriend's homework.
Wow.
I was a nerd.
You're still a nerd.
Never. I would never do homework now.
That's true. I'm so jealous.
So yeah, like, it was one of those things that was really bad, but I'm still, and this isn't an everyday absolute kind of statement, but I write every day, and that's one of the best practices that you can be in, is doing things every day. Whether it's like writing or drawing or reading, or, because that's how you get better, is just like staying in practice.
Right, it's like you just like you gotta keep going at it. And it's like, if there's ever something you do and can look back proudly on, no matter like what it was. I mean, like, I still look back on my, like, I had a lot of roleplay blogs when I was like in high school, because it helped me deal with my stress. I am so proud of those blogs.
Yeah.
I put a lot of work into there. I did some great storytelling on there with people. I still go back and look at them.
Yeah.
And, like, some of the things I'm sort of like, I could have done that better, because I didn't have a concept of what I was doing.
Yeah.
But, like, I feel like I interacted with so many different people, and it was one of the best things I ever did, I think. I always wish I could go back and, like, actually manage one now.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, I'm adult now, and it sucks that I can't.
Yeah.
So instead I just text people and be like, look at my characters, please, I'm desperate.
That's also the other thing that I'll say about like fan fiction and world building, because my early stuff obviously was terrible, but there are like one or two pieces that got into lore that like these fan fiction pieces that I think are like some of my strongest pieces. So it's like I look at them and it's like, I'm proud of this. And one of the ones that I want to talk about, I do like this daily horror contest, because that's a way that I write every day when I'm not doing fan fiction. Because sometimes it's like, it's just good to work on stuff that's fun, that you aren't going to do anything with. So it's like, so I do this daily horror contest, like this flash fiction thing, and we had like a fan fiction prompt one time, and it was like a crossover fan fiction prompt, which was so weird, because they're usually like these really intense horror scenarios, and then they're just like, it's fan fiction crossover day out of nowhere. But the prompt was, you had to take a character that you love from a book that you love, and a character you hate from a different book that you also love. And you had to, like, pair them up and have something scary happen between them, was, like, the horror prompt. And it's like,
That was the one with Ig. Right?
Yeah. So I did, yeah. I'm still really proud of that.
It's good. It was really good.
It was, I took Randall Flagg from The Stand and Ignatius Parrish from Horns, which is just, it was an interesting pairing anyway, because it's like a father-son universe thing.
Whoops.
Because The Stand obviously is written by Stephen King, and then his son Joe Hill wrote Horns. So it was like, there were connections anyway, but I was really proud, not just of how the dialogue came out, but because the concept of them, like how they meet, it's in like a limbo scenario, and the whole thing is that there's nothing. It's like the exact opposite of world building, because it was like, it's, what if there's no world? What if you're in between worlds and there's just nothing? So it was like literally just the two of them, and it's so sad, because it's like, I guess I could adapt it if I really wanted to, It would take a lot of effort, but it's like, it's kind of sad that that's one of my fanfiction pieces, because I, like, can't use it for portfolio stuff, but I'm still really, really proud of that.
Yeah, it came out really great. And I mean, like, I've seen Horns, but I've never read or seen The Stand.
Yeah.
So it's like, I was going in with no context for one of these people,
Yeah.
but it was still really fucking good.
And it's like, I do really wish, every now and then I think about, like, doing something with that, because it just came out so good.
Time will come. We'll find it.
I think it's one of those things where it's like, because it's a hypothetical scenario, I could take out everyone's names, but just because of the context, it's like, I think everyone would know that this is Random Flag and Ig, for
it's
sure.
It's fine.
That, and I, like, of all things, like, I'm still really proud of some of my Portal fanfiction. That was good.
You did the best one for ages ago for that commission. It was Thor and Loki versus GLaDOS.
Yeah, someone asked me for an Avengers Portal crossover fanfiction while we were doing commissions. And I loved that so much, because GLaDOS picked on Loki for being adopted. And it's like, of all the... That was so funny, because it's just like, that's such a weird point of Portal to focus in on.
Right.
But that's also something that she, like, hones in on for Chell, and getting to use that with an adopted brother was such a great scenario for me. I loved that.
GLaDOS is good. It's real good.
So, yeah, but it's fun.
World building's fun.
World building is fun.
And it's fun to write fan fiction, and, like...
Fiction is fun.
It's great. It's real good. I'm gonna write some One Piece fan fiction. I'm not gonna write it. I'm gonna draw characters, because that's what I do, but, you know.
There you go. You should do that.
I will.
You should get super into a specific season of a show so that I can get fan art for it.
Of course. I have no idea what you're talking about, friend.
I'm happy.
So what are we thinking?
Yeah.
Ready to go to starting points?
Ready to go to starting
we
points.
had our big fan fiction section.
Kind of talking about.
Right.
That's a good segue, because fan fiction can be a starting point.
Right, like, because you're starting with a world that's already built, and you're building upon it. And I think one of the fun things that fan fiction writers can do is expand upon the world that's already there. Sometimes in situations better than the original does.
That happens.
I'm trying to think which fandom it is. Isn't the Overwatch fandom does a lot of that? It's like, oh.
The Repo fandom has got some of the craziest world-building fanfiction I've ever seen in my entire life. I was working on, like, because I was doing a role play. I was doing, like, a Repo role play with someone, and because it's, like, a very dark environment. It's night all the time in Repo, and they don't really cover it, and the explanation, and I was just so baffled, because it was like a casual role play that we're doing, and just casually in the course of events, she brought up that the sky is dark from all of the ashes from the cremation of the bodies, which canonically isn't, they don't burn the bodies, they just, it opens on that big pile of bodies, like that. But it was really interesting concept, because it's like, I had never really considered why it is that dark all the time. I figured it was just an aesthetic lighting thing, but
which in the thing it might have been.
Yeah.
Like in the canonical Repo it might have been, but again, building on something that is never fully explained can be whatever you want it to be.
That was so good.
I'm trying to think. One of the ones I'm thinking of is a Talia fanfiction that took place. It was World War II one that was examining, like, how, like, the countries specifically were being affected by the war. And I think one of the best things it did was it portrayed Germany as the victim. Like, as also being terrorized by the Nazis, because they were, like, ripping him apart.
Yeah.
Because it's, like, but so, I thought that was a really great one, because it, like, you know, World War II happens, but I mean, like, the whole thing of Italia is it's, like, a goofy way of looking at history.
Yeah.
Like, all the major events happen, and everything, but it's done in a way that you can get an idea. Like, Italian itself is a starting point for research. But it's like one of those things where it was like a darker fan fiction. And so, like, but it really gave me an insight into, like, different ways of looking at these characters that are always so happy and go lucky.
Yeah.
It's like, because these horrible things happen, you know? But that's the one that always sticks out to me, is doing a lot of really great world building, because the person clearly knew what they were talking about.
Right.
Like, this person was clearly a history buff.
Yeah.
Who was writing it, and so they really got into details, like, about, like, the weapons being used, and, like, what, like, the warfare, and it was, like, it was good. It was real good. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. So yeah, fandoms can be a real good starting point.
Yeah.
For writing, because, like, you're taking something and you're expanding on it, and either altering the way, like, if it's an AU, you're altering the way the world has been built, or you're expanding on knowledge that has not been presented to you, or you're fixing something that wasn't good. You're making it better.
Which, like, it sounds kind of bad, but it's one of those things where it's like, sometimes it works, you know?
Right. I mean, like, sometimes, like, fan fiction can be superior.
Yeah.
Like, one of the things, though, you do have to watch out for, and I'm thinking about this because I have Anne Rice books sitting right there. Some authors are ridiculous. I'm thinking specifically about her, and it hurts to look at those books. Because some authors and some companies do not appreciate fan-generated content.
Yeah.
Which is sad. Like, it's really heartbreaking to see people be so close-minded about it. Like, I could understand if it was, like, blatant copyright infringement, or, like, people were doing, like, trying to sell it, but, like, people are just, like, writing fanfiction, posting it online.
Yeah.
Like, or, like, selling at conventions. I mean, like, even that's not not harmful. That's not gonna hurt anybody.
And in Anne Rice's case, like, what really makes me angry is that and this is going to sound so bad, because I would hate it if someone ever said this about one of my projects. But the fans were more loyal to Anne Rice's characters than she was.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
as the series goes on, she projected so bad to the point where, like, parts of the series are completely unreadable for the fans. Like, if you like the first book, by the end, it's like a religious crusade.
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck is happening?
Like, she cared more about what she was doing than, like, how much sense it made for the characters.
Right.
So it's like, I feel like that is an instance where, especially toward the end, the fans cared more.
Right. I mean, like, they cared more about the world than she did, but then she went on, like, a tirade where she ruined people.
Yeah.
Like, she literally sent her lawyers after people that didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And, like, the other thing she did was she would turn the fans that were more loyal to her against those people. And that's, I think, one of the shittiest things you can ever do as a creator.
Yeah.
Is turn people against each other. It's just, it's bad, and it shows that you don't actually care about your fans.
Yeah.
Like, you don't really care. Like, you're gonna put up that screen protection like you do, but it's just not. No, I can't ever think of somebody doing something with my characters. Like, I mean, obviously I have lines. Yeah. Like, I have very specific things that if anyone ever did write fiction about my characters, I would not want them to do. Yeah. Like, but I mean, like, I can't imagine, like, turning the dogs on them and being like, destroy this person. Like, that's so, how can you be that bad of a person? How do people that bad exist?
I don't know. It's, and it's one of those things, I think, even, like, I think even when you see your characters being used like in a way that you don't like, it's one of those things where it's like you're still inspiring someone to do something.
Right.
And at the end of the day, even if it's something that you don't agree with, necessarily,
as long as it's not harmful, like,
yeah.
It's whatever. People are going to interpret your thing in different ways, and I mean, that's just sort of, that's what you have to resign yourself to as a creator.
You can always just, like, it's one of those things where it's like, you can say, hey, I'm not for this, or hey, I don't like my characters being used in this way, without going like after someone for being inspired by your work, you know? And it's like
not good.
There are just better ways to go about that.
You can, like, defend yourself and not be a shitty person about it.
Yeah.
It's so easy. But yeah, that's our little fan fiction starting point.
So that's a good thing. Like, history
is also
a really good starting point. Game of Thrones is the War of the Roses. That's like a historical thing. That was the like basis for Game of Thrones. So it's like, and that became like one of the most intricate worlds ever because there was a strong foundation for it.
Right. Tolkien was, I wouldn't say this is attached to history, but I mean, like, Norse mythology is all over Tolkien's worlds.
Yeah.
I literally did, like, one of my earliest Norse mythology research things, like, Lord of the Rings was a big thing that came up, of one of the most influential things that's ever been influenced by Norse mythology.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so fucking much. So it's like, yeah, like, history and, like, culture can be huge starting points because you have so much to look at there.
Yeah.
There's like, this stuff has already happened or it's already been written down, so it's like you can easily look at it and being like, well, this, but what if?
And if you want to actually, I guess two things. The first is basically what starting points has been and is going to boil down to is what if questions.
Right.
It's also, I didn't talk about this during the media thing, but a really good way to come up with an environment is, like, to take something that bothers you about society and project what would this be like worst case scenario in X amount of time.
Right.
And I didn't talk about it in the media thing, but Handmaid's Tale is, like, a big example of that. It's like, Margaret Atwood looked at the injustices happening and the viewing women as second-class citizens, and she built a world around that injustice that has been incredibly powerful, that I didn't talk about for books or TV shows.
Whoops.
But yeah.
We always think of these things last.
I know.
I'm also thinking of an alternate way to do that is if you want to, like in my case, I talked about Spaceverse a little bit in the last episode, but me and Ben have a story that takes place in the future, and what we did in that society, like, for part of the world building, is we took out a lot of, like, because we didn't really want to focus on a social aspect of it.
Right.
That wasn't really our indication or anything. We sort of just want to have a fun space story. So what we did is, like, there's no stigma. There's, like, no stigma around women being in, like, powerful position. There's no, like, problems with people having, like, different gender identities. Like, there's gays all over the place, and, like, trans characters all over the place, and, like, one has a backstory that, where they were discriminated against, but it's not, like, a social thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's not that social injustice, there, which is another powerful thing you can do.
It's a good thing. Like, I don't ever see myself writing something like that, but I'm so glad that people are doing it. Like, it doesn't play to my strong suits, but I think you have to get both sides of the coin, and one of them is, like, why this is wrong and focusing on the injustices and, like, the adversity that we live with today, reflecting that. And another one is what should it be like? And it's like, again, just because of the kind of stuff that my stories usually focus on and the kind of writing that I tend to do, I can't imagine seeing myself ever, like, trying to do the more positive side of that.
Right.
But it's one of my favorite things to see other people do, because I think it's really interesting, and I think it's a really good... it's as effective when it's done well.
Right.
For sure.
Well, I think it's one of those things where we all have our particular things that we like to do. Like, we all have our preferences for what we do creatively. So, like, you write horror
Yeah.
and go towards more the twisted dystopia route, where I do it. I feel like I do both.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, where I center my stories is, like, a lot different. Because, like, you're focusing more on, like, horrifying things, and I'm like, LOL, they're gays. They're everywhere, and this is all the different types of them. And I love them. And it's great and valid and important. So yeah, it's like everyone's gonna have their different starting points based on what you want to do with your story. And that can be your starting point is, the concept of what you want to tell with your story. Like, you can start with that. The theme, that's always the thing they tell you to do first when you're writing a story, which I don't agree with.
Yeah.
It's like, that's always how they did it in, like, English class.
I don't always, like, agree with the idea of, there are times where it's like, I want to say something and I write a story around that message, but for the most part, I think it's more about, like, just telling a story. Like, people are gonna get different things out of it. But there's no reason why you have to start with a theme. Right.
And, like, your theme can develop as you're working. Like, and, like, but one of the things you said during the horror episode is, like, a lot of horror stories just lay stuff out.
Yeah.
Like, it's just there. Like, there's no... The purpose of it is to expose it.
Yeah.
And make people think about it. Which maybe they don't want to do, but, like...
Yeah.
Right. But, like, I think my... most frequent thing is I never start with a theme. My starting point is always the characters. Like, I always start by making a character, and then the story builds around them. Because that's who we're following.
That makes sense.
That's who I love. I love all my characters. They're shitty little children, but I love them.
Yeah, that's something that I did. There are very few times where I do start with a theme. It's something that I do when I'm doing political horror, which I need to stop doing because no one will take it.
Well, they're cowards is what they are.
But that's, like, the one thing, because when I was working on the political horror piece, like, 2 years ago, a year and a half, whatever, ago, I was, I knew what story I wanted to tell, and I worked backwards from there. It's like, who would be because... like, I knew that going in, it would have to be a fairly unobjective opinion, and it's from me as a creator, but it's like, I would like the narrator to be objective so that the issues stand out more. So I worked backwards. It's like, what kind of person would only be taking a stand about this now?
Right.
So it's like, which is how I came up with the narrator for that. I just, like, worked back by default.
It's like, who is the least likely to say anything until they have to, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
It's obvious.
It was pretty obvious. Like, I say it like it was, like, a fancy process of elimination. It was a really obvious choice, actually.
Sometimes it
pretty much does itself. But,
perhaps.
You know.
But yeah, so... I think sort of what starting points boils down to is starting points can be anything that gives you inspiration.
Yeah.
Really, like, if there's like a message, or, like, you just have a character you really want to write for, or you just want to write in general, or it's like you want to write a fan fiction, or you want to adapt something, like, as long as it gives you inspiration, is a great place to start.
Yeah.
I think one of the worst things, like, that's taught in, like, creative writing, like, in, like, the lower academic level, like, in middle school, is that you have to start with, like, a theme to your story.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the worst things, because it implies that there's a formula to how it's done, which it's not.
And, like, the best things break boundaries.
Right. I think one of the funniest things ever is how in his Power of the Pen, that whole situation Where you were consistently told to stop writing horror, and now you're a professional horror author.
Yeah, I was kicked out of Power. I was kicked out of Power of the Pen 2 years in a row for writing like really disturbing stuff. I was like, please don't.
And then she kept doing it, and now she's
yeah.
a professional. Well, that's what you do.
That's my whole job now. And then it was like, that was the other thing, was because I was also told, like, not to do controversial stuff. And it's like, but that's kind of like what fiction should be. And the coach was just like, the thing about it is, like, what if it upsets what if we're at a competition and it upsets one of the judges? And it's like, if one of the judges can be upset by a middle schooler's project that they wrote in an hour, they're not fit to be doing this.
Right.
Actually.
That's true.
Because it's a creative writing tournament for middle schoolers. Like, if I can scare the judges bad enough that they disqualify me, they deserve it. Like,
they need to get out of here. It's like, adults are so excited to knock down kids.
Yeah.
And it's, like, so stupid. It's like, oh man, you really shouldn't be doing this, because what if it upsets an adult? And it's like, why are they upset by what a child is doing?
Yeah.
Like, this child is doing something
so
non-harmful as a creative outlet, and why does that upset you so much?
Yeah.
So
that's a fun,
Well, it's also funny, because we also had to read, like, a bunch of Holocaust books in that
it was like
class.
the Holocaust unit.
And, like, it was
hey.
like, wait, I'm upset. Not because my morals are offended, but I'm just sad.
That's a...
Let me tell you, I think some controversial things happened during the Holocaust.
Yeah.
I
wish that I had, like, cared a little bit more about the Holocaust at the time, because I would have, like, when she told me that no one wants to read that stuff, I literally just would have started writing World War II stuff if I'd had the mind to do it at the time.
You were too busy writing Harry Potter fanfiction.
I had
fine.
Harry Potter fanfiction. That's important.
I think the second moral of this is don't bash other people's starting points.
Yeah.
Like, if they're, like, inspired by something, that's their can of beans.
Mm-hmm.
Just let them do it.
And, yeah. And don't be a coward.
Don't be a coward.
Write what you want to write. No matter how good you are, no matter what you're doing, there are going to be people who don't like it, so do what you want to do anyway.
Right, that's just how life is, unfortunately.
The person who keeps getting rejected for controversial material.
Oh.
I'm not a good person to be giving advice.
She was right the whole time!
And still no one will read my horror stories.
I will.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That romance anthology has not gotten back to me, by the way, and I know that they're mad.
Oops.
They invited me to submit to a romance anthology, which should have been the first. This is on them. They did that to themselves.
Yeah, they did this to themselves. They can't blame you for that.
But they're like, we want outside the box thinking, and I'm like, oh, I'll do that.
Oh, don't you worry. I got plenty outside the box.
I'll do some real outside the box thinking. It's a horror story, and they're
like,
oh. It's so funny, because I found another anthology that's doing the same thing, and it's like, boy, do I have a piece for you.
Hey! Are you interested? It's great. It's good.
Yeah. So, part 3. World building exercises.
Yes! Back on the topic.
Yeah.
What are some good world building exercises, Kat?
There are a lot of good world building exercises. I think a lot of them are more mental.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of it boils down to thinking about stuff.
Right. A lot of it comes down to asking questions.
Yeah, just, if something interests you, like, keep coming up with new scenarios for it. Ask yourself questions. One thing that I would recommend is, like, looking at any one scenario and being like the thing we were talking about in the last episode with the diverging timelines, it's like, pick one thing that's different and imagine how drastically life would change without that thing.
Right.
That's an exercise I do a lot for myself in brainstorming.
That's a good one. I think one of the things I like to do the most with world building is, like, think about, like, day-to-day things. Like, if you're in, like, a fantasy world, it's like, how do people handle, like, eating? Like, are there supermarkets? Are there vendors? How is the, like, how do people get their food?
Yeah.
And, like, where does it go from there?
Mhm.
Because, I mean, like, food is, like, one of the most basic necessities. Water is the most basic necessity. Shelter is an important necessity.
Yeah.
Like, all these things you need to know if you're creating an entirely new world, how that is going to change.
Mhm.
Like, and I mean, it doesn't always have to be drastically different. It could be similar to the way it is now, but better or worse.
Yeah.
Or it could be really good or really bad.
And there's also, like, another fun question that I like to ask myself is, is to take an object or, like, a concept and be like, what if this were a world? And try to adapt it, like, from something.
Toaster world.
And, like, I don't have enough, like, I haven't published enough stuff. I don't have, like, to do my stuff. But a really good example of world building like that is Clive Barker's Abarat. Is like, what if time were its own world? And, like, he has, like, the 24 different islands, and each one is the embodiment of an hour of one of the days that we have here in our world.
Right.
And it's like, that's a really cool concept.
Right, that's like a really, it's like a unique way to look, I think, I mean, another group of people that do it really well, I mean, Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman.
Oh, yeah,
have the most ridiculous worlds. I mean, like, it's, Terry Pratchett did Discworld, right? I'm not making that up.
No.
But, like, that's his whole thing.
You
like,
are making it up. You made up Discworld.
Oh, fuck!
You made Discworld.
I made Discworld! I'm rich!
You're so rich.
Oh, God, I can stop living in this apartment now. Oh.
They give all your money to Terry Pratchett.
God damn it! And it's fine, he deserves it.
Because he made Discworld.
Because he made Discworld. What?
No, they are really good at that, though.
Right. I mean, it's like, one of the funniest things is that opening line to Good Omens is it's like the way, the creation of the universe.
Yeah.
It's like people have like, it's like they go on like a long thing describing it and then like other people describing it and then the line afterwards just, they're both wrong. And it's like, it's so good.
There's also, that's another interesting question that you can ask, is when you're looking at today's world, what would an outsider think about us? And that's one of the things that I love about some of both of their work, I guess, but especially, like, I'd say Hitchhiker's Guide is a really good example of that, because it also opens up on, like, a perceived history of the world, but it's how the Hitchhiker's Guide describes stuff. Right. So it's like, it's looking at us from a distance, and and there are, like, excerpts from the book throughout the story where you just get to see, like, these, like, what's important to other people.
Right.
And how it differs from what's important to us, specifically.
I think also, since we're just on the Terry Pratchett Gaiman street right now, Sandman does that also. Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, because the whole thing is it's from the, like, you get the introduction of the Sandman who isn't from this world, and, like, after a while you start following him, like, so you get to see all these, and I mean, like, it definitely jumps perspective, like, from chapter to chapter, in a lot of it, so it's like, you get to see all these different perceptions of people and places that are not home to the character.
Yeah.
And it's, like, it's important to see what they pick up on specifically, because like that's one thing you have to consider when you're writing your characters is what is your character going to notice about this and why, and like, so it's like you gotta, I think that's why developing your characters while you're developing the world is so important. Because it gives you an idea of the questions you're going to immediately need to answer versus the ones that you can sort of, like, leave in the air or leave in the background.
And another, just, like another really cool, another exercise is to be like, what else exists that we don't know about?
That's a good one.
That's, like, the root of a lot of, like, I'd say Lovecraft's work.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And also, like, Philip K. Dick is always doing stuff like that. Everyone.
What do you expect me to do?
No, but that's... And it's something you see a lot, too, in science fiction, where it's, like, where there are other galaxies and stuff, and people are, like, these are things that are... that could be, for all we know, happening right now.
Right. I think also another fun exercise is to make an AU of your world.
Oh, yeah.
And see how that goes.
Absolutely. Yeah, because even... sometimes it'll be surprisingly better, and other times, like, even when it's not, it'll give you a really good idea of what's strong in your original world, and what needs work, and, like, you can tweak stuff, and it's good.
You know what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about Game of Thrones as a Western.
Oh.
I physically hurt you, I'm so sorry!
I was in an event once. We had to write.
I'm so sorry. You're so sad now.
I forgot about it. I don't know how. Yeah, I was in an event once, and it was like a Game of Thrones not sponsored. It was like a Game of Thrones inspired event, and one of the prompts was we had to write a Western. We had like a week to write a Western, and I'm so bad at that because I'm not interested in it. So, like, I have no kind of reference for what a Western should be like, but they said that the story could be like anything, so I was like, at least I'm not going to come up with a Western story, I'm just going to retell a story as a Western, and because it was a Game of Thrones event, I decided to do the Red Wedding as a shootout. It's called the Red Wedding Shootout. It's bad. God. It's real bad, you guys. She
hasn't even shared it with me, that's how you know.
It's, I'll do a dramatic reading one day. It's
nice.
Bad. I used... oh god. First of all, I renamed everyone to give them, like, more Western-ish sounding names, and then the world was called Westernos. It was bad. It was real bad. And I wanted to have it be one of those things where, like, they're insulting each other back and forth, but I didn't know any Western slang, so I got, like, yellow-bellied in there, and then I just started making up words. It's like,
God, so beautiful.
And there was like one thing in there. It was I wish I could remember what the exact thing was, but I used like the term concubine's handbasket, and it's like that's not. No one's ever said that.
No one's ever said that in their life, and they will continue to not say it.
Like, especially in a Western, those aren't Western terms. I don't know what I did.
God, so funny.
It was also because it was like the only other Western trope I could think of. There was like an occasional tumbleweed that would roll by for scene breaks instead of like actual. It was so bad.
Oh god, I didn't even know all these things. I'm so happy. But you had to do a lot of world building for that.
I had to do so much world building. Oh man, it's bad.
Oh, it's amazing. It's so good. I love it.
It follows up Rob Starr because I thought it sounded more sheriffy than Stark. I don't know what the thought process was. I wrote like an entry for it and then it got deleted and I only had like a day left and it was like I don't have time to do this right.
This is wrong. Everything about this is wrong.
So yeah, that's an AU that I did, I guess.
That's our shining example of an AU.
Western. It's so funny because I do so many good AUs, and that's just not.
That's just not one of them.
But that was the example. And you also do a lot of AUs. You work.
I almost exclusively in AUs. One of my favorite ones is because Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared AU because I love Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. And the entire concept for the AU was what if they were. Instead of gods, what if they had superpowers? And oh my god! the world has grown to be so beautiful and adorable. Can you guess that it's gay?
What?
What?
It's what?
Yeah. Gotcha with that one.
I'm surprised.
But yeah, it's like just like taking like either a character or like a whole story and just putting them in a completely different one.
Mm-hmm.
You can get so much out of it.
Yeah.
It's great. That's why there's like a billion versions of Tony and Patty everywhere, is because there's just like a million AUs.
Yeah.
And I have no regrets.
And it's also like from I guess this is less about the world building and more about character building, but it's also really interesting because you have a character and you write them and it comes pretty naturally, like your rough draft, and then you do an AU where it's like this one thing changed, and as you start to write the character differently, you start to realize like what events affected your character the most. It's a good character study.
Right, you get to see where like they really grow and thrive and what really challenges them. I have a couple different versions of Thrash also.
Mm-hmm.
Like in AUs, like I have like a bad end version of him.
Of course.
And then I have like the stupid like fluffy romance version of him where nothing bad has happened and everything's okay.
Oh man.
He has a boyfriend.
I can't
everything's
imagine
good.
Thrash.
Happy?
Happy.
Me neither. It's upsetting. I can't do that role play right now. I'm too sad.
Oh man. Yeah, that's always fun. Is like being sad and
No,
having
it's not.
happy characters. You're like, oh.
This is why I have to play One Piece. Because I'm never mind. I'm sad there too. Everyone keeps making me sad.
I was gonna say you were complaining over lunch that was making you sad.
It is making me sad. I'm sad. I'm gonna go make a One Piece AU. Fuck. I already did.
Oh man, that happened so fast.
Yeah, you know how I am.
I know it's taken me like 2 years to get you not started on Hotel yet, and now you're like
One Piece is
playing One Piece.
I'll get to it, I promise. We can watch it later.
Okay.
Over the summer.
Okay.
It's so long, but I have to go to school.
It's like 13 hours. That's fine.
I have to do homework and we're never going.
Yeah, so that's AUs.
Back on track.
Back on track.
What are some other exercises? You can just find like basic like world building lists also online that just like are just lists of questions.
Yeah.
You can answer, and I mean like that's also totally like that's great because a lot of them will be like you can find like super detailed ones of like like you can find lists that are like unusual world building questions.
Yeah.
And they'll ask like super specific things, and then it makes you really go into it and figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think that's great.
It's good. It's helpful.
Do you even say it's healthy? Because I would.
No.
Fuck.
No, I would say that's healthy.
Yeah.
That's good. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's.
I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah, I think we got everything. We had like some actual like advice. We got
did.
off topic.
Well, yeah.
I was sad.
Yeah.
That's
accurate.
That's accurate.
It fits the mood.
Hashtag mood. Game of Thrones face poster. Same.
So yeah. I don't think I actually do have one more fun world building exercise. But it's in. Oh, I lied. I have two. I have a couple more. We're not quite done yet.
Oh.
It's an encore, if you will.
Okay.
The first one.
Nobody clapped. We didn't get an encore. We just came back on stage.
You aren't supposed to say that. You're just supposed to edit in clapping.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Damn it.
Hold on. Let me.
You called my bluff.
Let me edit it. Hold on. Woo!
Yeah. Give me more of those world building exercises.
Woo!
Okay.
Back on stage!
So...
God, I think that's the...
Now I feel like this has to be too good, and I'm starting to regret that I said I had more. This is a lot more physical. I do think that a cool thing to do for world building exercises, there's that thing for map creation, where you dump out like the irregularly shaped noodles.
Yeah, like macaroni
paper.
or like...
And then you just, like, trace around the general shape to create, like, new continent things, and I think that's really...
that's really great.
That's fun. And the other world-building thing I have, play open-world video games.
That's true.
Because, first of all, it falls into the shower principle, where it's like, if you're focusing on something, it'll free up other parts of your brain for creative energy. So it's good on that level, but it's also... really cool, especially, like, single-player games, where it's just, like, you and your thoughts.
Right.
Like, I've had some really good world-building ideas, like playing Minecraft.
Minecraft is great because it's also literal world building.
And then if you want to, you can, like, build those structures, because you're already in a game that allows you to do that.
Right.
And you can be like, this is what it would be like, and you get to see it. It'll be blocky, but you can see it. It will be
squares. You can also have... things go horribly wrong for you in Minecraft, which might distract you.
That's true.
But you might also get an adventure chair.
You can also play on, like, peaceful mode. I wouldn't, but you can. That's a mode that they have.
Don't be a coward! That was our...
Oh, yeah.
That was our thing. We said, don't be a coward!
I take it back. There's no creative mode. I lied. Don't play that. There's a thing that, like, I mean, you can... do stuff like that, though.
I mean, you're allowed to, obviously.
Yeah,
I'm just harassing Kat.
I know.
Don't be a coward.
I don't think I've ever done, like, creative mode in my life, honestly.
I did it when I was in, like, younger.
I did it once, like, to test out the new brick things, because I wanted to see what they had added, but I didn't play the file. I just, like, laid out all the different bricks and was like, this is what this looks like.
And then you left.
And then, yeah, I went to go...
I was like,
play Minecraft.
Oh, Minecraft.
So, yeah, those are... also exercises.
Right. Like, don't be afraid to, like, while you're doing something else. I have a lot of my best story ideas while I'm at work. Because I'm, like, doing something else. It's, like...
It's the shower principle.
Right. It's great.
Makes sense.
If you are forgetful, though, like me, make sure you can write down those ideas as soon as possible.
Take notes.
No, take notes.
And as soon as you get the chance, like, because if it's something like where you're at work and you don't have time to, like, sit down and make, like, detailed notes and you just jot a note down for yourself, that's fine. But make sure that you immediately elaborate the next time you get a chance, or you'll find these, like, nonsensical notes that don't make any sense. Not that I do that. But I do.
If you have a sister, don't.
That's a whole other thing. There's, like, that thing. I have an idea. I, like, carry a book with me of just ideas, to jot down that I elaborate on for story concepts, and there's just this one page in the middle of the book that says, "Surprise!" exclamation point in all capital letters, but I don't know what the note was for. So
I think you just wanted to surprise yourself.
It was just, like, a nice surprise.
Was it nice or concerning? Because you seem really stressed about it all the time.
I am really stressed about it all the time, because I only write down things if I think they're really good ideas, and I know at some point I thought there was, like, a point in time where I had a great idea for a story, and I was like, if I write surprise in all capital letters, I'll remember it because it's good, and now I don't, and it's, like, a constant source of tension in my life. It's like, will I ever get that story back?
Will you ever learn what the surprise is? The answer so far? No.
It would be really funny if the surprise, like, if the concept for the story was someone who forgets that they write surprise in a journal.
It's too meta. Oh, that's so funny.
And then I also have, like, I just have some of the weirdest notes in there, and usually I make it back around to do stuff for them.
That's true.
But not always. That's the same book that has a page that says the devil's boobs are idle slot machines. And it's like...
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember that
one. Remember that one.
I don't remember what the story was going to be.
It was like
an inside joke.
It was like a devil's casino or whatever.
That makes sense.
And you had to play the slots. But, like, the slots, like, they had boobs on them. That's why you were playing the slot machine. You had to pay with your soul, but you got the chance to see boobs. That's what it was.
I'm gonna make a retraction here real fast. Don't write anything down ever. Ideas are bad. I wish I hadn't remembered that just now.
You made me remember it, so you had to remember it too. You fiend. One of my other things, I actually did remember another exercise you can do. Make playlists. Like, make them on Spotify, make them on YouTube, make them wherever you listen to music. Playlists are one of my favorite things to listen to, because it helps me build character, it helps me build scenes. Like, if you find a song that you're like, this would be a really cool fight scene, like, save that shit. Yeah. And, like, keep listening to it and make that fight scene and, like, find an excuse to have that. Or, like, there's one song I stole from Ben, because it was on Afer's playlist, and it's perfect for a setting in Ragnarok. And so, like, I stole it, and that's where I got most of my development for that, was from that song, and taking that feeling and projecting it into, like, a whole thing. So, if you like music, make playlists. Do it.
Absolutely do that. That's a good idea.
If you don't have something that fits a specific song, you can always make one. That's why I have so many fucking characters.
Yeah.
I have a problem.
Yeah, that's always fun. It's like when you find a song that works really well for a character. I had a character that I was working with once, and I'm like listening to a song, and it's like, that's his literal backstory.
It's like,
this is shit. So good.
It's so good, and then it can really get you in the mood. Like, if you have a character playlist and you're going to be writing for the character, or you're going to be playing that character, and like, it helps you get you in the mood.
Yeah, and like, if you've taken a break for something and you don't quite remember like what state of mind you were at, you can listen to that song again, and there's a good chance it'll like bring up
it'll like bring it back.
Yeah,
it's like, I'm like, before we get into like our session we're gonna play, is I'm gonna put together a Ragnarok playlist tonight, probably, and then, like, have that on tap, and then when it comes time to play One Piece Adventures on Saturday, I'm gonna listen to my character playlist for that, because I've been away from her for, like, 2 weeks, so it's gonna be
fun.
It's gonna be good, and then I have to put on the Borderlands soundtrack for my other I'm playing 3 campaigns this week!
Oh, man.
Oh, God! I'm DMing 2 of them. I need to do homework!
I'm gonna play Portal.
Do it.
To get in the mood for Ragnarok.
That's true, because Tone
was, like, loosely based off of GLaDOS, so that's...
Really?
Yeah.
Made fun of her dad. Think about that.
Oh, no. That'd be so funny. Tone's sitting in a room by herself, and she's like, I'm adopted. It's funny, because I'm not, but my dad's never here. So sad. Oh, God. Oh, no. We need to redo last month's scene. That's going to be my new quote for Tone.
Character sheet 2.0. Okay, we're losing it a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna
end the podcast.
End the podcast.
This has been Unsolicited Advice. I'm Bubblegum.
I'm Toxic.
And we'll see you next time. Bye. Bye.